So let's get to the topic for today's video. Um, the thing is, I've made an observation since I relocated back to Nigeria, and to be honest, the observation was made even before I relocated back. But now that I'm in the country and I've been in the country for a little bit over a year now, I've noticed um, the surge of Nollywood content on streaming platforms like Netflix and Amazon Prime, and it gives this feeling of Nollywood is everywhere, Nollywood is here to stay, and there's so many examples we could use as well, from movies like The Black Book to movies like Gangs of Lagos and Blood Sisters. It just feels like the Nigerian Nollywood product is settling into every corner of the streaming world. And they're doing numbers too, like serious numbers. Um, to put things in context though, Nollywood, for those who don't know, is the colloquial or nickname for the Nigerian film industry. It's huge. It churns out like 2,500 to 3,000 movies a year. So in terms of volume, second only to Bollywood, which is the colloquial nickname for the Indian film industry. And relatively recently, I would say like within the last 5, maybe 6 years, Netflix and Prime seem to have entered into the space, and Netflix especially seems to, well, Netflix especially, but both of them really seem to have made that commitment to want to enter into the Nigerian space. And I really just want to talk about what the pros and cons of those platforms entering into Nigeria would look like for the Nigerian film industry. What does it mean? Is it gonna be a good thing? Because I mean, of course, they come with blockbuster series. They will give you a bigger budget. You know, your your movies get to show on a bigger platform. But then, what does that mean for the local industry? What does it mean for the stakeholders involved? And I'm talking the actors, I'm talking the writers, the producers, I'm talking the cinemas, anyone who traditionally would have a stake in that industry without the streaming platforms being involved. What does that look like for them? And I really just wanna ask a question. Is there a sort of sweet spot where where they can benefit the industry more than they can harm it? So that's kind of the purpose of today's video.
Without you, waiting I go do. When I know they with you, waiting I go do. Without you.
The upsides of the streaming platforms venturing out into Nollywood per se. Um, and I think we can all agree there are obvious upsides. I mean, you look at the global distribution. Netflix, for instance, has over 208 million subscribers worldwide. And once a movie gets on Netflix, it's all over, especially when it's made by Netflix. There are no, there tend to be very little regional restrictions. So a Nigerian movie on Netflix is being watched by people in the UK, people in Brazil, people in South Korea. So you give these filmmakers the chance to reach audiences that they would never have been able to reach with the traditional setup that we had in Nollywood. which means Nollywood is no longer local. You're now looking at your movies as a producer, as an actor, as a director, your movies get to make a bigger impact potentially all over the world, and which is for me, I think is a good thing. I mean, look at Squid Game as a counter example to that. Squid Game is the story behind the guy who wrote the show, the fact that the game is a is a game that kids play back in South Korea. The platform exposes you. It gives you way more reach than you'd ever be able to do. And for example, you look at the movie, sorry, The Black Book had over 70 million plus views on Netflix. And although yes, Netflix isn't as forthcoming with the streaming data as we would like them to be, there's a guarantee that once the movie goes on there, it's going global. You also are looking at better revenue for the producers. The money that Netflix is giving to you is gonna, it's not even coming close. Like it's beating out whatever you would get from your locally sourced rounds of funding. So, and Netflix is known to give up to 80% of the revenue back to Nigerian producers versus what they would usually get from the traditional system we have in place. It would hovers about 35-50% if you're really good at negotiating. And when you have a push for investment like that, you see other studios, that's Nigerian studios, also get better deals. You get publishing deals, you get production deals, and it means steady income. It means more return for the producers, which in turn makes them more willing to fund more movies. So it's a positive feedback loop of some kind. Like you get to see the feedback loop and improve production standards. This is one of the biggest things I've noticed. Like one of the reasons I feel bad saying this, but one of the reasons I didn't like watching Nigerian movies was because they always felt a bit amateurish. Like there is a space for that, don't get me wrong. But at a certain point it felt like the only thing the Nigerian film industry could do, Nollywood could do, was release amateur level content, skits level content. With Netflix coming in, the production standards have changed. They're bringing in high quality, high level equipment. They're bringing in world class crews. The directors, there's more expected from them. So there's a there's as a viewer, you get to see the change. Like when King of Boys came out, I was in Canada at the time. It blew my mind. Like I, for a long time, I had been avoiding watching Nigerian movies for so long that I didn't know we did stuff like that. Like it totally made it so Netflix became interesting again because I had gotten to a point where I was considering canceling my Netflix subscription. Like, why am I paying you? I think at the time was $20 every month. When King of Boys came on, they started bringing on all these other Nigerian projects. I was like, damn, okay. Just for this alone, I think it's worth paying that $20. So, and it wasn't just me. My friends felt the same way. My girlfriend at the time felt the same way. It was I felt more comfortable recommending Nigerian movies, not only because it was now easier to find because well everyone has Netflix, but it was just of a better quality, right? So it's and yeah, and of recent, they've released this Kemi Adetiba's show To Kill a Monkey, Chef's Kiss. That show, I think that's my recommendation for this video. To Kill a Monkey. Anyone watching this video that hasn't watched that show, we need to drop whatever you're doing and go and watch it and then come back. It's gonna blow your mind. Or Buzz the Buzz. When you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. Or Buzz the Buzz. But yeah, and it also means we diversify our storytelling. No more, we it allowed us to move past the part of the reason why I stopped, or at least for a period, I wasn't really interested in watching Nigerian movies because it felt like it was not only, in addition to the fact that it was amateur content, it felt very focused on topics that didn't really add much to the viewer. Like art movies, they're supposed to tickle your mind. They're supposed to make you intrigued. Netflix and Prime coming in meant we now focused on period dramas, we focused on animation, we focused on crime thrillers because there's a lot of story to tell. Look, we're Africans, like we have so much history. The period pieces you could make alone just on our history is crazy. And then you talk about a creative take on the everyday experiences of not just the current Nigerian. I'm talking Nigerians who've been living in Nigeria for so long. A creative take on that. We live in a country where you don't get enough. We don't get 24-hour electricity. We are somehow generating the most GDP on the continent, but we still have bad roads and shitty healthcare. So it's like there's so many juxtapositions and so many ways you can creatively tell a story. Like a Nigerian can creatively tell a story that's more than just, oh, let's look at this thing about how a woman must bow down to her husband even though she's been abused type shit. Like that's really what was it for me. And I feel Netflix coming into Nollywood made it so it just became easier. It became easier for these producers to tell a story because Netflix and Amazon Prime were not interested necessarily in telling those kinds of stories. They were interested in telling stories that would keep people coming back, telling stories that will keep people interested in their platform. And the only way you can get that is by being more creative, is by making art, is by making art that tickles my mind, that tickles my brain, that triggers conversation. That's what it's about. So you guys should go watch To Kill a Monkey. We're gonna go on to the next section, which is the downsides of this that I've noticed. So
Without you, waiting I for you. When I know they with you, yeah, make me lock up and to do sana. But the door, to give me a love. Yeah, make me lock.
so we're gonna talk about the downsides. Downsides, or I wouldn't even say downsides, but more like growing pains of Netflix coming into Hollywood. And I want to start on impact on cinemas. I'm a cinema head. Like, if you give me a budget, like go out and do fun stuff for this month, I'm either going to try, like going to a restaurant to eat food I haven't eaten before, or I'm just gonna go to the movies. I just would rather see a movie on a massive ass screen than on my computer or on my TV at home. So it was one of the first things that actually kind of triggered me for this video. Like, what's the effect of Netflix on cinemas? Like, so I looked into it, and turns out as of 2022, research shows 83% of Nigerian moviegoers, as people who would usually normally go to the cinemas, preferred waiting for streaming platforms to just release it on there. Because I mean, for there's so many factors that work into that. The fact that we have a shitty transportation system, the fact that the economy is just not doing well, the currency is worse in terms of value, but it has meant Nollywood theaters shares have dropped from 39.3% in 2021 to 25.8% in 2022. And it's led these cinemas to pivot back to making their focus Hollywood blockbusters. So it's made it so even in a Nigerian cinema, the most of the movies you're able to watch are not Nigerian movies. They are the classic Hollywood blockbusters. That's I'm talking about the Supermans. I'm talking about the Fantastic Fours. I'm talking about the Man of Steels. So it's it's I think it's a bit of a problem because, like I said, I'm a cinema head and I like Netflix, but like, do I think we do I think there's a world where I would choose them over going to a cinema? I don't think so. And I don't think we should because it's it takes away a major part of what makes Nollywood. An important part of it. King of the Boys 2, I believe, skipped cinemas when it got dropped by Netflix. Like, I mean, got released by Netflix, and that was such a big deal. Like, it was such a big move from Netflix, and you could tell it affected them because they pivoted so hard because it was clear to them now. That's the cinema owners that they needed to look for more consistent revenues. Um, and in terms of content balance and valuation as well, there's some downsides to that because, like I mentioned earlier, I alluded to it earlier, Netflix is interested in crowd pleasers. Now, on the good side, this means the content, that's the content, so the quality of the content is gonna go up. But on this negative side, on the bad side, you could say, is because they favor these crowd pleasers, it means they're really there's a world where you can have a show or a movie that could have done really well, but because of Netflix, and again, their metrics are not really as cooked when it comes to understanding the Nigerian audience. So a lot of good stuff gets slipped through the cracks, right? Critically acclaimed titles like The Milkmaid, Eyimofe never got licensed by Netflix or Amazon Prime. And there's the issue of valuation then comes in because Netflix feels, well, it's Nigeria. They already like the fact that our economy is just doing so bad. They Yes, they're investing more money, but it's all on a relative term, and it's relative. Why? Because uh, a movie that's funded by a Nigerian production company, for example, maybe would have a 5, 10, 20K US dollar budget, right? Netflix comes in, they're giving you a 50, 90, 100, 150K US dollar budget. To them, that's nothing. Netflix has TV shows on there, like Squid Game, for example, that cost millions of dollars to make. Sense 8, one of my favorite shows on Netflix. That's a second recommendation for you guys, by the way. Go watch Sense 8. Fucking amazing show. Sorry for swearing. Fantastic show. Go watch it. Back to what I was saying. Um, Sense 8, Squid Games, millions of dollars per episode, tens of millions for the whole show. But when you look at that relatively to what the quality Netflix would get versus the amount they would spend to get a Nigerian content, it's huge. 150K to get a relatively similar quality project like To Kill a Monkey is to Squid Game or Sense A. It's nothing. So they would rather pay, like, well, not like they would rather pay, but it means they will be more stiff on that negotiation, on trying to value our work to the level they would value, for example, South Korean content or US content. And that's a bit of a problem because it means we are being undervalued. And in a way, it means we are not maximizing what we could be making from, or at least the industry, because I'm not part of them. The industry is not maximizing what they could be making from this, right? So I think that's also a serious downside. And also, it also means the industry is now being left at the whims of Netflix and Prime Video. And if there's one thing I don't like about capitalism, is that when they realize they have you on a chokehold, they will do whatever the hell they want with you. And I mean that. So, and that has already started showing because recently, I think as recent as last year, 2024, Prime Video stopped commissioning Nollywood originals and they cut a majority of the African executive staff, right? Just out of nowhere. Netflix has also scaled back. Yes, they have a few projects here and there. I mean, I just recommended to you To Kill a Monkey, but they've scaled back. So it leaves the industry at the whims of an external factor that potentially will never be in the control of the industry. At least not with the way things are set up right now. And it means you're now filmmakers are left scrambling for funds because you've 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 given them this ideal of we'll bring you something good, you're ready to fund it. So meaning the people who originally produced these movies before, they've kind of stepped down. So when you leave, there's all these writers, all these producers, all these directors who want to make movies, but are now having to fit themselves in a smaller pipe than what used to be available before. And that's not good for anybody. I hope the analogy I just did make sense, but that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to say basically is they do that and it makes them the only fish in the game, the only hand in the game. And that's not good for anyone because that's a sort of monopoly in itself. Monopolies are never good. Never. In this next section, I just want to mention I'm gonna speak about two just really quickly about two hits Netflix and Prime have had in Nollywood. Um, and just kind of give you guys an idea that this thing is real. Like they do know what they are doing. If Netflix and Prime decide to focus in on the Nigerian film industry, we're gonna be eating good quality content for days. They are gonna be making money hand over fist. Everybody's gonna be winning. So, but like I said, that'll be on the next section. So you guys enjoy some more music, and we'll be back.
Give me your love for you.
This next section, I want to talk about two. I want to talk about the two platforms, and I'm gonna focus on Netflix first. Okay, and it's kind of like I wrote down here the Kemi Adetiba success story. I think that lady is killing it. Like she can write, she can produce, she can direct. God damn it! I think if you give her an opportunity, she can act as well. Like at this point, I wouldn't doubt that she's really good. She did King of the Boys. She did King of the Boys, Return of the Kings. Now she has How to Kill a Monkey. And I think if Netflix goes all in on her, we could be looking at the quote unquote next African Shonda Rhimes. I don't know if you guys know Shonda Rhimes. She's the lady that wrote Grey's Anatomy and or produces the Grey's Anatomy. She also did the one on Netflix, Bridgerton, and she had a new show recently about the murder mystery in the White House. Shonda Rhimes is a G. She's a legend, and I think this lady, Kemi Adetiba, every time I watch her stuff, it's like I like to me that's the next trajectory. Like that's where I see her going. Like if Netflix can just lock in, like if Netflix can just stand on business, like my boy Justin Bieber said, and lock in, I think they have one on their hand here. And I think like yeah, you look at King of the Boys 2018, massive box office hit. King of the Boys, Return of the King in 2021, the first Nigerian original series made by Netflix. Although it skips cinemas, it topped Netflix charts across Africa. I'm talking everybody loved that shit. Like it was one of the reasons Netflix got encouraged to start pushing in more into the African market in general. Like they saw, oh, we can do stuff like this. This is good. And then To Kill a Monkey that just got released recently. You guys watch my next video and you haven't watched To Kill a Monkey, you know what? I'm gonna put a quiz at the beginning of the next video. Because you're gonna tell me who Buzz the Buzz is. You write it in the comments of this video or the next one. Because I'm gonna hold you guys to that. And it's I can't imagine the exposure she's gotten from that. Like global exposure, not just on African stage, but globally. The impact, right? See, and that's the thing about this thing that I feel has to be handled really well by these platforms because there's a bittersweet story to that. They've had this success with Kemi, but except from King of the Boys, the first one in 2018, every other of her work has missed cinemas, right? So if that continues to be a trend, what does that say about Netflix's interest in Nollywood? Because at the end of the day, you're only gonna keep getting Kemi Adetibas if your real focus is to foster Nollywood, not just to extract resources, right? So that's really what I think we should take away from this. Yes, you boosted creativity, you boosted revenue, but the traditional infrastructure got sidelined, and you're not providing any alternatives for that. And I think that's a problem. I really do. And with Prime, the two movies I want to talk about, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti and Breath of Life. And other than To Kill a Monkey, I would say for me the list is number one, the TV show To Kill a Monkey. Number two, Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, the movie, came out 2024. And then number three, Breath of Life, 2023. Top three best African content I've watched I think in all my life. I'm what 28, gonna be 29 this year. Yeah, it's really good. And Fumilayo Ransom Kuti, I'm talking like it was just well done. The location scouting was well done. The casting was well done. The direction was well done. The costumes, like everybody was on point. Everybody came correct, and the story was historically accurate. Like, of course, here and there they had some creative liberties, but they did their best to be as accurate to the story as possible. and that just made it feel rich. Like I remember we watched it. My mom was there, my dad was there. Like a movie is good when you turn it off and everybody just starts having a conversation because everyone has something to say. Everyone took a little bit of something from it, right? It happened with To Kill a Monkey, it happened with Bread of Life, and it happened with Formula Some Kuti. Amazing movie. Um, in the theater, it got released. Thank God for Prime. Um, it made I think about 141 million, or a little bit more than that in the box office, Nigerian box office. Won a couple awards, and later on got licensed to Prime, which I think is how this thing should be done, right? Prime, maybe because Amazon is a bigger company, there's that they can give it that patience, right? They know, okay, they release it in the movies because that's what you need to do. And listen, I don't want to talk too long on this, but that's what you need to do. You need to show that you're willing to still foster that industry because you can get more Formula and some cooties. You can get more Breath of Life. You can get more To Kill a Monkeys. But you need to foster the industry. The platform is gonna be there. You get what I'm saying? But let these movies have a cinema run. Let them get viewed by the public. Let them get the critical acclaim they deserve to get, right? And you only get that critical acclaim when you utilize the traditional infrastructure, right? If you think it's inefficient, put some work into it. Make it efficient. Make your own pipeline, but utilize the traditional infrastructure. And that movie, from Lion Sam Kuti, was a win-win for everybody. Cinemas made money, like I said, 141 million or more in the box office. Prime made money. They got subscribers off of that. I definitely subscribed to the Nigerian Prime when I relocated back because we wanted to watch. Like after watching that movie, I was like, okay, yeah, we'll pay the money to watch Prime here. The effect on Nollywood stakeholders. Now, this is the part of it that I think we get down into the nitty gritty because we're going to talk about all stakeholders. I'm talking the actors, the crew, the writers, the directors, the producers and production companies, and the cinema houses. So we'll start with the actors, right? Streaming, of course, means you get more visibility. It allows for you to get more global roles. For example, you look at this Shola Shobowale. Her fame has gone to the roof since her debut on Netflix. There's more opportunity, is what I'm trying to say. There's more opportunity. You don't get to go on a platform like Netflix and not make a difference. You are gonna make a difference. The fact that you're on a Netflix movie means you're making better money, and now the chance for you to be on another Netflix movie goes up. And then for the writers and the directors, they get access to bigger budgets. When you get a bigger budget, you get to take more risk on your stories. You get to tell more creative stories. You get to dive. Your genre of storytelling can now diversify. Like I said, okay, let me use this example. Formula Some Kuti, period piece. Breath of Life, you can say like a high level drama. How to Kill a Monkey, thriller, crime, basically a crime thriller. Three different genres, right? This is completely different from what I was used to before Netflix and Prime came into Nollywood, where everything was just low quality drama, like petty fighting, And again, I don't want you guys to think I'm trying to like shit on anybody. Netflix and Nollywood has always been amazing. Look at Fuji House of Promotion. Look at Super Story. Look at, I can keep going on. It just means this video will be too long, but Nollywood has its good sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, with more money means more risk can be taken, and when more risk is taken, especially when it comes to art, you get content that actually adds value to the consumer, to the viewer, actually adds substance to the viewer rather than just another thing they can consume while it's playing in the background or to pass time because they've come back from a day of work. No. Now you make content that people will set aside and know, okay, I don't want to watch this movie just as something I'm watching because I've come back from work and I'm tired. No. I'm gonna save it on Sunday. I would have rested. I'm back work on Friday. I'd have rested on Saturday. So on Sunday when I come back from church, I'm gonna sit down. I'm gonna watch 2, 3 episodes, 4 episodes. I'm gonna binge the whole thing. So that's what you're looking at. For production companies and producers, you're looking at multi-picture deals. That's steady funding. Like I said, what you would, the analogy I used before about it's all relative. Now these production companies are signing 150K US dollar deals. Well, you know what 150K US dollar translates to in naira? Multiply that by 1.5, like 1,500. You're looking at almost, that's easily close to 300 million naira per movie. And you're gonna sign a 5, 10 movie deal. A 5 movie deal, you're already looking at about 1.5 billion naira. A 10 movie deal, you're looking at about 3 billion naira. You know what 3 billion naira is in US dollars? 3 billion naira in US dollars is like 1.5 million dollars for 10 movies. For 10 movies. It's nothing to these companies. So, but there's also the other side that we discussed, which is the fact that are we being valued to the level that we should be valued to? Because if Netflix, well, not fails because that's what the reality is, but if Netflix knows they can pay a Nigerian production company $2, $3 million and get 10 high quality movies, what's the chance that we are gonna ever get to the level where just like Squid Game and Sense8. You guys should really watch Sense8, by the way. I'm also gonna quiz you guys on that. Just like Squid Game and Sense8, these companies get to make $1 million per season, or a couple $100,000 per episode, right? So that's kind of the discussion here, like the effects on the stakeholders. And for the cinema houses, I think they're the ones that are getting hit the most. And unfortunately, maybe we live in a country where everything is so fast paced that I can understand why people might not really care that cinemas might be going out of business. But I don't think they will go out of business, by the way. I just think it makes that industry or that sector of the industry very homogeneous. Like, I lived in Canada for like almost 10 years. I expect that when I go to a Canadian cinema, I'm not gonna see a Nigerian blockbuster. I'm gonna see what Hollywood has produced. But then I come back to Nigeria, right? And I'm still seeing Hollywood blockbusters. No Nigerian movies, no Nigerian nothing. I think that's a bit of a problem. I think that's not a problem, but I think that's what we need to focus on. Like, we shouldn't be giving all of ourselves away in exchange for this. I don't think we should. So yeah, um, I think yeah, that's kind of the ground I really wanted to cover in terms of the effects this has had on the stakeholders in Nollywood. So we're gonna be going to the final section of the video now. I'll give you guys a break so you guys can listen to some more music. How can streaming help more than it can hurt? Right? I think that's the goal of all of this. When I came up with the idea for this video, I wasn't really interested in I'm still not interested in convincing anybody because I myself am not necessarily trying to convince myself. I just noticed the pattern, and I thought, sorry, at the time, it would be worth talking about. So, ipso facto, here I am talking about it. So, I think, how can streaming help Nollywood more than it can hurt it? I think there's a win-win strategy. And I think Prime has done it already, right? Theatrical runs first. And this is not even a new thing, by the way. It's not a new thing. This is how movies are released, even in Hollywood. Because just like Nollywood, Hollywood needs to protect the traditional infrastructure. They need to protect that. So what happens? Movies get a theatrical run. I mean, some companies like Disney and Marvel, they take it so far to the point where their movies run in cinemas for almost as long as a month and a half to 2 months before you can now get it on DVD, which has another like 2-week window, a week sometimes, before it would then be available on their own Disney Plus streaming platform. So like because they understand that these infrastructures are necessary. It's about providing opportunity. It's about providing jobs. It's about stimulating the economy. It's about making a positive impact. It's not about extraction. It can never be. When you focus on extraction, what you're gonna have when the resource has been extracted is barren land. You can't focus on extraction. It has to be about maintaining. It has to be about utilization, positive utilization, right? So, like I said, win-win strategies. When these movies are made, these companies, the streaming platforms need to be comfortable with having a theatrical run, meaning let it run in the theaters. Let the theaters make some money. Let us. It also gives them a chance to be easily considered by this award shows, right? Let them have their run. Then you get it on your streaming platform. You still get the numbers. You will still get the subscribers. It's a win-win for everybody, and it's in a way a bigger win for you because it means Nollywood is gonna mean doing that means Nollywood is gonna be here for years to come for you to get more stuff out of. So, and diversification, of course, big budgets are nice, but not everything needs to come at a big budget, right? Use mixed strategies. Do cinema tours, premiere stuff on YouTube. YouTube is very popular in Nigeria. When you have a movie like that Milkmaid now, that's Prime passed on. I think it was Prime. Yeah, Prime passed on. They could have easily premiered that on YouTube, right? Seeing how it was going, and then eventually released it on their platform, right? So it's they need to like I said, I think they're just too focused on extraction, right? They're just too focused on extraction. And I think if they focus a little bit more, just a little bit more on utilization, just a little bit more on maintaining, these things to me are obvious, right? So collaborations between the platforms and local industry, they need to be more open with these evaluations. I think You can only give people like you can only give these companies 1 million for 10 movies or 2, 3 million for 10 movies for so long before they just go look for funding elsewhere. You need to gradually work that up. You need to gradually work that up. Now, whatever that means for Netflix is a different dynamics completely, but that needs to be gradually worked up, right? And what do I mean by that? Sure, you're giving 1, 2, 3 million now for 10 movies. When you're renewing that movie deal, negotiate more fairly. 1 million per movie or 1 million per show, right? Negotiate more fairly because we're all in this together. We're all in this together, and that's just the reality of it. I can't, and you can't. I can't bring in this circle of people who are making movies for the biggest platforms in the world, right? Contributing to the success of the biggest platforms in the world, but then that guy is making a show and what because he's. I'm not saying that's the reason, but he's in South Korea. He gets 1 million per episode or 1 million per show, but I get 1 million for 10 shows. That's about 100,000 a show. We are both contributing to the same platform, the success of the same platform. That's not fair. So there needs to be equity. They need to be realistic. Of course, the production company, Nigerian production companies need to be realistic, but there also needs to be equity. You guys need to show that again you're not here with the mindset of resource extraction. You're not here with the mindset of a brain drain or creativity drain. You're here to make sure for the foreseeable future, Nollywood is still here to give you that growth that we know, that you know we can give you, right? Um, Policy on infrastructure support. I don't really like involving the Nigerian government in anything, just generally because I think they suck. But if there's anyone who's involved in politics in any way, you guys should pull some strings. Like, give the cinemas a tax break, enact policies that guarantee local content quotas. Do you get what I mean? These things are things that exist in Hollywood. They exist for a reason. The cinemas get their cinema run because these things have been negotiated with the studios. So these things have been negotiated with the platforms. So there's no reason why it can't be enacted here, right? And we need to start funding more expansions. This expansion thing can work both ways. If Netflix is expanding into Nigeria, there is no reason why our movie should not be expanding over there. Like, fund these studios. One of these cinema houses, fund them specifically to open one cinema house in the UK, one cinema house in the US, one cinema house in Canada, and they show exclusively just Nigerian movies. You know how many of your people are in diaspora. I just a couple years ago was part of the diaspora. You know how many of your people want this content, but we can't get it. We can't get it. So sponsor this. Imagine To Kill a Monkey. Well, To Kill a Monkey is a TV show, so I guess it wouldn't show in a cinema. But imagine Formula Some Kuti showing in a cinema near you. Imagine Breath of Life showing in a cinema near you. Like, not everything has to be fast and furious. Family. No. Like, I mean, yes, I love Fast and Furious. But like, be proud of your people. Like, I don't know. And let me not start going on and out about the Nigerian government because this video wasn't for me. But bottom line, what I'm trying to say is, streaming is here to stay. Whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. It's simple, it's accessible, it's relatively cheap. The ticket for a movie here is about 7, sometimes 10K. So even with Netflix increasing the price of their subscription, pretty much it seems like every 3 months. Because when I came, it was 5K a month. They increased it to what? What did they increase it to? They increased it to 7,000 a month. And then just a couple months ago, they increased it to 8,500 a month. But still, per month, it's cheaper. The money I would use to watch a movie once at a cinema is the same amount of money I used to pay for a whole month of Netflix. It's not even a comparison. Not even. So streaming is there to stay. But there needs to be synergy. There needs to be a synergy of money, skills, global reach, healthy cinema output, and good intentions. Good intentions. There's nothing that beats good intentions because Nollywood's future depends on finding the balance between the old and the new. I think that's it for today's video. Like I said, this is my first video on this channel. I think I really got into the discussion once it started. So all of that bit of excitement kind of melted away. But it was nice to see you guys. It was nice to meet you guys. You guys should leave your comments, leave your thoughts in the chats below the video. Like the video, please subscribe, share, tell your friends, and be nice. Be nice to each other. Be nice to me. Like, just be nice. Be a decent, nice human being. And I'll see you guys in the next video.
You are my darling, you are my darling, my sweetie.
New videos uploaded every week. So subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoy the journey.
We love God, and to do so now. For you to give me love, yeah, make we love God, and to do so now.